What is going on, y'all? Thank y'all so much for joining us. My name is Chris Hennessy, and this is Ending the Stigma, where we talk about all things addiction related, justice related, human trafficking related, and just open up the dialogue and have conversations about it just to kind of open people's eyes that maybe have never been exposed to this world. I have dirt all over my shirt. That's what happens when you work in a warehouse. That's awesome. Um, just to kind of open people's eyes to what this world is like, what it was like for us, um, just so that maybe people don't, uh, maybe it just changes somebody's viewpoint on it. And that's really kind of the goal here. My guest tonight is Hunter Shepard. Like I met him on social media through Ben Owen after Ben was a guest on his podcast. He co hosts a podcast with Rachel Slocum. I don't remember the other guy's name. He can tell us when he gets out here. Um, Called the Against All Odds podcast. Uh, just kind of started following him, and he posts all kinds of amazing stuff about addiction and recovery and all kinds of stuff like that. So I reached out to him and I was like, "Hey, bro, like I really just want to sit down and hear your story, um, and just hear what you have to say. Just have a conversation with you." And he was gracious enough to accept. So without any other ramblings or anything, I'm going to bring out Hunter. What's up, dude?
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Good, man. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it.
Of course, of course. Yeah. So you're from Texas, huh?
I am from Texas. Yeah.
Nice.
Was it the
What part?
accent? Was it the accent that gave me
I
away?
I can hear it, but I'm from West Virginia, so I got a bit of one too. You know.
Okay. Okay. I always tell people I sound like biscuits and gravy with a glass of sweet tea. I'm from East Texas. It's a little small town. It's like 14,000 people. Jacksonville's the name of it. It's about 2 hours southeast of Dallas
Nice.
and about 2 hours almost due west of Shreveport. So it's kind of like almost on the border, really.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, we're my team and I are starting to do a lot in Austin area, so I spend a good
Okay.
bit of time there. I love it
No
over there.
kidding. Dude,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to holler at me one time when you're over here, man. It's like 4 hours, dude. Like if you're ever here on a weekend or anything like that, like I'd love to make the trip, come over there and meet you and see what you're doing there.
Yeah, definitely love that. Awesome. Yeah. So, like I said, I'm from West Virginia. It's pretty commonly known as the place with the highest overdose rates in America.
Really?
Per capita, we got hit pretty hard by like the Purdue Pharma, OxyContin, um, you know, epidemic. And then whenever all that stuff got shut down, which I kind of came in on the tail end of that, after all the OxyContin, it turned into like, perk 30s and stuff like that, Roxy
Yeah.
30s. And
Yeah.
then I came in on the tail end of that, and it quickly turned to heroin, and then eventually fentanyl and carfentanil and all of that. So at the height of my addiction, I was, an IV fentanyl meth addict, and yeah, it was rough.
That's a hell of a combination too. Like for anybody that doesn't know, like meth is an upper and heroin's a downer. So you put both those things in your body at the same time, and it's just like your body don't know what's going on.
Yeah, yeah, it's a
Or
good.
so I've heard. I've never done heroin, but that's what I've heard it explained to me before.
No, for sure. It's a my addict brain is wanting to say it's a good mix, but um, you know,
No, I get it, dude. No, I totally get it.
yeah.
Some
So
of that euphoric recall, like, man, I've been clean since 2008, but sometimes, you still think about that kind of stuff. It's like sometimes it pops up and you're like, damn, that was a good night, or a good week
yeah,
or whatever. That was a good batch or,
yeah. How
that
long?
stuff
So
still crosses your mind.
how long was that? 2008. How long
Mm,
you got?
8. Yeah. I've been clean since 2008.
Nice. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. I'm trying to think of how old I was in 2008. I think it was like 15 or something.
People say shit like that. It makes me feel so old because I was 28 in 2008.
Love that. Love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So just tell us, man, like, how'd you get started in it? Like, And let me ask you this: like you mentioned, you went from heroin to fentanyl. Just talking to Ben Owen, like he said in Memphis right now, like there's not even any heroin to be found. Like it's all fent.
I actually
Was it
think
like
it's,
that for you too?
to be honest, I think it's like that pretty much everywhere in
Yeah.
America now. I mean, and we'll get to it, but later on, in life, more recently, I've, traveled all over the world, and I would say that really the only place the actual heroin exists now is outside of America. Um, Fentanyl has really just kind of taken over.
Yeah.
It's it is being heavily marketed within our country, by,
Yeah.
various, cartels and stuff like that. But really, people want it because people that are, addicts want it um, because it's cheaper and it's stronger, you know?
Yeah.
And that's just what it is. Like, if you were to
Yeah.
find real heroin now in America, it would be 10 times more expensive than what fentanyl is. So why would people want
Really?
that? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, I believe it.
yeah, for me, it really started. I have a great family. Absolutely love my family. Never had any like traumas or anything growing up. Between being born and 12 years old, my life was great. And then I really didn't like who I was as a person. I was overweight. I had crooked teeth. I had this weird haircut. I dressed kind of different. And I grew up in a town of 1,200 people, so literally everybody knows everybody. I definitely wasn't
Right.
one of the popular kids. And I was, I had ADD without hyperactivity. I was prescribed to Adderall. And, for being like a 11, 12-year old, being put straight onto 30 milligrams of Adderall, it just it wasn't good for me. And the thing is, I had ADD without hyperactivity. So
Mm-hmm.
it still worked in the way that a stimulant would work for me. So I took
Yeah. I
it
was
and
just
did, and
fixing to
it,
say, if you didn't have that, then you were getting spun like a son of a gun. Like you were
oh,
wired.
I was wired off of it from the very beginning, and
Yeah.
I learned pretty quickly that I could overtake it, abuse it, and get like high off of it. And also at 12 years old, I drank and smoked weed for the first time. I got arrested for the first time. So a lot of things kind of like went wrong when I was 12 years old, and it just like completely put me on a different path. When I was like 14, turning 15, my childhood best friend, who literally lived right next door to me, got in a drunk driving accident. He was a passenger in a car with somebody that was drunk driving. That was my best friend in the world, and
Yeah.
I had to pretty much see him dying in the hospital, and he did pass away,
Yeah.
and that was very confusing and traumatic for a young kid, and that pushed me even further into the darkness. And yeah, I stayed in this cycle of getting expelled or getting suspended and eventually expelled from school. Kind of being on probation and getting off probation and getting back on. Failed so many drug tests. By the time I was by the time I was 18, I had probably already done 2 years in juvenile,
Mm-hmm.
detention facilities, rehabilitation programs that were funded by the state, and then eventually juvenile prison, which in the state of Ohio, I grew up right on the border of Ohio and West Virginia. And when I got arrested, it was in Ohio. So, I was in juvenile prison in Ohio with people from inner cities and
Yeah.
gangs and all kinds of stuff. It was
Yeah.
pretty wild.
Small town. It's a culture shock, man, because I grew up in a small town too. It was 5,000 people, a little bigger than where you grew up, but it was still a rural, it's rural Texas.
Yeah,
And, man, you go to prison, dude, and get exposed to some of that stuff. And it's like, whoa, like
yeah,
I'm just a redneck. Like, how the hell did I even end up with some of these people? You know what I mean?
for sure, for sure. Yeah, no, it was eye opening, and I think for me, it like later on, I realized now that it really just introduced me to people. The one thing it did for me was that it was the only time in my life where I actually had like some real structure. I was able to get my GED, and because school never worked for me, I could never do it.
Yeah.
It was You know, the structure really helped me at that point in my life. And when I was released from juvenile parole the first time, in the state of Ohio, you can go to juvenile prison until you turn 21. You can stay on juvenile parole until you're 21. And when I was released, I was about 18 years old, and you know, for the first time in my life, I'm like, okay, I don't want to go back to jail. You know, I'm actually concerned about it at this point. And instead of, you know, like any good drug addict, instead of not doing drugs, I try to find a way to do it and not get caught. So what happened was, you know, I started using a drug called K2 or Spice.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a bad.
Very familiar with it, dude. That was in the last year or so I was in prison. That stuff, which was 2016, that stuff was super prevalent.
Yeah.
I mean, they were hauling folks out in ambulances like daily because of that stuff.
Is bad. It's real bad, and it's really physically addicting. A lot of people don't realize that. Like, you know, I would say it's just as physically addicting as fentanyl. You know.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's bad. And yeah, so I got addicted to that stuff pretty quickly. Got connected with somebody that was selling it, you know, producing it in a different country and selling it in the States. And I was getting it for cheap, so I learned how to make money off of it. I learned, you know, how to hustle it. And yeah, I met my daughter's mom during that time. She got pregnant. We met through the drug. She got pregnant. Thank God she stopped using it at the time. And you know, I think it was about halfway through her pregnancy, I stopped using it because, you know, it ran out. They actually made it illegal to ship to America, so my supply of it ran out, and then I'm withdrawing. And at that point, I was like, oh, I don't care whether I go back to, you know, juvenile prison or whatever. I'm just going to use whatever I can. And that's really how I got like into the Roxy 30s and then eventually heroin. At the time, it wasn't really fentanyl yet. And so I started to use Roxy's and heroin and some psychedelics and weed. And I'm on the run from my parole officer. And I remember when my daughter was born, I've shared this a bunch of times, but, you know, when my daughter was born, it was like one of the most beautiful moments of my life. You know, I started talking to her and she literally looked at me and smiled. She didn't cry or anything. Like literally as soon as she's born, right? I'm holding her and talking and she's looking at me smiling. And for a normal person, like, you know, in a normal person's mind, they're like, oh, that should be enough to like make you want to get sober. But the reality is I was so far into it at this point that I couldn't get through a few hours without withdrawing. So I was literally in the parking lot of the hospital getting high, you know, before we ever left. A few months later, my parole officer catches up with me, puts me back into juvenile prison. My daughter's like a couple months old, visiting me in like a prison visitation room or whatever, you know. And for the first time since I was 12 years old, when I got released from there, they decided to release me from juvenile parole. So for the first time, and I was about 20 years old at this point, and they released me from juvenile parole completely free, no supervision, nothing, and it was off to the races. You know, over the next year, I got full blown, you know, strung out on fentanyl, heroin. I would mix it with psychedelics, you know, anything I could get my hands on. On my 21st birthday, I did meth for the first time. And yeah, that drug like really, I mean, the K2 was bad, but that drug brought me to my knees. It really did. You know, I completely stopped using any other drugs. I didn't use psychedelics. I didn't smoke weed. I didn't use heroin. I didn't use fentanyl. My whole life was about meth. And very quickly, I wanted to get help because, you know, meth will put you in bad situations. It'll make you uncomfortable. You're hallucinating. You're around bad people that, you know, will hurt you or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yes, for real, man.
Yeah. So I hit rock bottom pretty hard, pretty quick. And thank God, I had a family that was there to support me, that wouldn't give up on me. I don't come from a rich family, but one thing my mom has had worked at the same hospital for 30 some years. She was an MRI tech, and I had insurance through her. And what it did was it gave me the ability to go to treatment in
Mm,
other states.
yeah,
Um, from 21 to 23, I went through like 6 different treatment facilities.
really.
For me, the 12 steps is what keeps me sober. I was never introduced to that. I
Yeah,
never, during the period of time where I kept going to different facilities, I just kept going to the wrong places.
yeah,
A lot of them weren't structured. I believe in structure. I believe in accountability. I believe in the 12 steps, while also applying, mental health treatment and trauma therapy and all of that stuff. You got to have
right,
a good
right.
mix of that. And
Yeah,
the places that, can you hear me?
yeah. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello. Uh-oh. Let's see. Gotta love technical difficulties. Settings.
That, can you
What
hear me?
about now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right,
Cool.
good deal. All right.
Yeah, so I just kept going to these places that looked nice and sounded nice and had good, good salespeople, and it just, they just weren't what they promised my family and promised me that they would be. And given I wasn't fully committed to recovery at that point,
Right, right.
and every time that I would go to a different state for treatment and I would come home, I would relapse straight away. I didn't have
Yeah,
a program. I didn't have people to support me. I didn't have a sponsor or any of that stuff. I didn't have any, spirituality, none of that, right?
right,
And I would
right.
go home, and life would show up. I'd be arguing with my parents. They had custody of my daughter since she was like, a couple months old or whatever. So I'd come home, we'd start arguing. I didn't have a job. I didn't have any, anything really, and I would just run straight to the drugs as soon as life got uncomfortable. So I,
Yeah,
I was stuck in this cycle of rehab, relapse, rehab, relapse, and eventually, what happened was I was able to put together 5 months of sobriety in a treatment facility, the second to last facility I went to. And of course, I go home. I thought I'd fallen in love with this girl, and I lose my job that I had. The girlfriend breaks up with me, and I'm living at home with my parents. You know, and we were just arguing and whatever, and life didn't feel too good, and I didn't have anybody to call on.
yeah.
And so somebody showed up, perfect timing, and says, "Hey, I've got some drugs. You want to get high with me?" And I'm like, why not? Everything
Right,
else sucks, so I might as well.
right,
It had
right.
been my solution for my whole life, and so I said, yeah. Well, 3 weeks later, I lost 45 pounds. I had picked my
Wow.
whole entire body. I had scabs all over me. That's those
I've
videos
seen
and
the
pictures you see.
videos. Yep.
Yeah, and I was out of my mind anyway. But a girl that I had ripped off for a couple $100s a few years before, I asked her for a ride. I told her I was going to give her her money back or drugs or whatever she wanted. And I was knotted out on fentanyl, and I had a bag of meth setting out, and she put Flocka into the meth that I was doing, which is I don't know if you're familiar with it, but
I'm not.
it's like bath salts, but even stronger.
Okay.
I think it's synthetic stimulant, and it's a really bad drug. It's what all those people in Miami were like attacking people and biting their face off and stuff like
Yeah,
that. Have you
yeah.
heard of that?
Wow.
So she put that drug into the meth that I was doing. At this point, I'm a full blown IV addict, and I sucked it up and I injected it. And I remember right before I literally, it's kind of graphic, but I stuck the needle in my arm, And I looked up at her as I was pushing it down, and she's like, "I effing hate you. I effing hate you." Did it and blacked out. Didn't know who I was. Didn't know where I was. Completely just out of my mind, blacked out for 3 days. It like makes you like flail your arms around. So in some of the videos you see of me, I like was like throwing my arms all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I was like that for 3 days, and my parents took care of me. And this drug was so strong that I would be in psychosis, and I would go to sleep and wake up still in psychosis for 3 days. And when I would sleep in between my parents because I was so scared, and that was the only place I felt safe. So at 23 years old, I'm a 23-year-old grown man
Right.
sleeping in between his parents like a child.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, that was when I came out of that. My parents had done something different. They really learned that they needed to ask questions of these facilities before I go to them. Like, hey, what do you guys do recovery wise? What's your structure look like? Like, is there any accountability? Like, why are you guys
Right.
different than this place and that place? And
Right.
you know they got me into a program. They got me accepted to a program, and when I came out of psychosis, I was so dope sick. I literally was like, thought I was going to die. I was withdrawing really bad, and my
Yeah.
body was messed up, and my parents drove me to the hood to buy dope, and then drove me 2 hours away to the airport, and I got high in their backseat the whole way there. And yeah, my dad turned, and this is also something I've shared a lot. My dad turned and looked at me, and he said, "Do you want to be buried or do you want to be cremated? Because if you don't stop, that's the only choices you have left." Like, they had literally been planning my funeral while I was alive
Wow.
for years, and he kind of brought it to me and was like, "Look, like, you're gonna die, so you might as well tell us, what do you want us to do with your body?"
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I got on the plane, flew to California for treatment. Went to a place that was structured, held me accountable, made me work the 12 steps. I got a sponsor for like the first time ever, took his direction, um, you know, was fully compliant with treatment. And I've been sober since. And that was February 21st, 2018.
Nice.
Been sober since. And what happened was I was 2 weeks sober. And this is something also that probably was like special for me, really, that helped me stay sober. I was 2 weeks in. I was in sober living, and I started to document my journey on social media. Like, I would just make Facebook posts, like writing about my story. My parents
Yeah.
sent me all the pictures that you see of me and the videos and all of
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
stuff. And I started to make videos and content and memes and all of that stuff, and it would just start going. It would just start going viral.
Yeah.
And since then, it's to the point where I have over a million and a half followers between all social media platforms. My most viral videos are like 56 million views and 30 million views, and
God dang.
like, I'm able to reach people and help people. Uh, I'm
Yeah.
a, I'm a director at a facility here in California. We're a 90-day minimum program. We believe in structure, accountability. You're going to get all the way through the 12 steps, and you're going to be to the point where you're sponsoring people when you're with us.
Yes.
Um, you know, uh, yeah, real strong clinical mental health treatment. And I've been here for 4.5 years. I absolutely love what we do. I spent a lot of time in England. Like, in the last 2 years, I've been to 10 different countries. I'm an interventionist. I do sober transports. Yeah, I literally have helped families from all over the world
Yeah.
help their loved ones. And I've worked with
And
rehab.
that is crazy. Like, think of how many times you've been in and out of treatment, and then the last time you just went straight from treatment to like being a freaking stud in the recovery world. Like, actually, you just helping people. You know what I mean? And I don't. It's just, it's crazy how quick that worked.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know what you believe, but it's definitely a God thing for me.
Oh yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
you
Yep.
know, I actually, thank God every day for,
Yeah.
the life that I have and, being able to help people. And, a lot of, even my prayers are like, hey, how do I help somebody today? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I've actually been really blessed with like the people that I have in my life as well. Like, I wouldn't be able to do it without my family and the people I work with and my recovery community and all of that. And I'm
Yeah.
super blessed,
Yeah. So if you live in Cali, like what kind of work are y'all doing in Austin? Like what are y'all opening up a facility there, or like what do you?
I hope so. Yeah, yeah. That's
Okay.
what it looks like. Also,
Okay.
we really like the recovery community there, and there's a lot of really amazing facilities. Because look, at the end of the day, our facility isn't for everybody. We're like I said, a 90-day minimum, like high structure, like your phone is gone for 30 days, like so we work with a lot of other facilities that are good, but maybe they're there's reasons why people can't come here for 90
Sure.
days or X, Y, and Z, or like,
Sure.
we want to make sure people get places where their insurance works for them, and they're good places. And
Yeah.
a lot of the people we work with are in Texas. So,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Cool. I love it. I love it. Like that's awesome. Um, so like where do you see like we've covered a lot in 27 minutes, dude, 28 minutes. That is crazy. Um, like where do you see yourself? And I hate to even ask this because it's so cliche, but like in 5 years, like what's the long-term goal for Hunter? Um,
Yeah.
and I hate it when
Yeah.
people ask me that, but I'm gonna put you on the spot and ask you.
No, I just want to keep sharing my story and other people's stories
Yeah.
and keep growing the platforms that I have and helping people.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things for me is I want to build treatment facilities that are more accessible for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just want to help people, man. I just want to make a difference in the world. I uh, I want to see as many countries as possible. I love traveling, and yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep expanding the things that I'm doing already and helping people.
Sure. And I think that's one thing about that sets you and like Rachel and Ben, and I don't even have any pictures or videos from whenever I was out there in the streets, but like y'all post that stuff and people see that. Like people that are in addiction see that, and it kind of like to me it would make something click, or it might make you think, man, do I really look like that whenever I'm high out of my mind? Like this dude, if this dude looked like this, laying in a hospital bed covered in scabs, and now he's doing this, maybe I can do it too. And I think that's what makes it so effective and makes it go viral and makes it reach the people it needs to reach, is because it's just that rawness.
Yeah,
Like that's real stuff.
yeah.
That's not,
Well,
oh, look at me now. That's like, look what I used to look like.
yeah.
Like this is the way I used to look. Lena
Sorry,
had a
somebody.
question. No,
Yeah.
you're good. Hunter, what do you say to those that come into the program and fight the 30-day back out phase?
You know, the thing is, every single person is different in that way. I think that we actually find that when somebody's already committed to being with us for 90 days, that actually they're kind of like at a point where they're like, oh, given we deal with a lot of treatment resistant people and they will fight back.
Right.
But look, it's just a requirement of being in our program. And at the end of the day, it's
Yeah.
like, look, you know, we're a merit based program, and that's you have to do that to earn your phone back, is to get past that phase and be to a certain part of your steps. Once
Right.
people are at the point of being with us, they're kind of already committed to that anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Do y'all have a network? I'm sure you do, but do y'all have a network of places like sober living houses or places for people to go whenever they get out? Because I say
Yeah.
all the time, like, you can't really send somebody to treatment, whether it's a 28-day treatment or a 90-day treatment, and not have something for them to go home to.
Yeah, we do work with sober livings like literally all over the United States that
Yeah.
range in cost, in every cost you can imagine.
Sure.
And we actually have our own sober livings as well. So,
Okay.
yeah, but they're not for everybody either. Those are also super structured. You can't really work with us. It's all about recovery and being sober and figuring your life out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. And I kind of like that y'all are, because I'm kind of I'm not going to say strict or a hard ass, but I'm kind of big on, look, you're either going to commit to this or you're not. And if
Yeah.
you're going to commit to it, like, we'll be with you every single step of the way from the day you walk in here until after you get out, to make sure that you have the resources and everything that you need to succeed. So I love that. Like, that's really awesome.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer in it. I feel like, because a lot of people we deal with are young adults. And I feel like a lot of the younger generations have become pretty like soft, and I
Yeah,
feel
for
like
sure.
people are entitled and they're used to getting their way. And yeah, I find that the structure and routine and accountability is life changing for people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, Elena. Structure is crucial in overcoming trauma. Like, you just got to have it. And you're right, Jennifer. It does give people ownership of their journey. Like, they can
yeah,
honestly say, I did the damn thing. Whenever you're pushing them like that.
yeah.
Um,
Which is why I've stuck with where I work at for the last 4.5 years.
yeah,
I've seen so many people go to programs where they're spoiled and entitled and they can have their phone and there's no structure, and things aren't mandatory, and it never really works.
yeah,
With us, our program is what it is. Our structure is what it is. You're not earning your way out because of X, Y, and Z. You know, you're gonna put in the work, and I
yeah,
love that.
yeah. I love it. Um, let's see what else. Like I said, we've covered a lot already. And we're almost at time. I usually go about 40-45 minutes. So where can people find you? Like Facebook, it's Hunter Michael Shepard.
Yeah,
LinkedIn, it's Hunter
Facebook.
Shepard.
Yep, Facebook. It pretty much, if you type in Hunter Michael Shepard anywhere, it'll come up. Hunter Shepard on LinkedIn. Um, I also have some platforms called Hunter versus Addiction, which is Facebook and TikTok. I've got his Instagram, but it's mostly I post mostly on Instagram. So
Okay.
yeah,
I don't even think I follow you on Instagram. I need to go look. Um, Alina had a question. Y'all are in Cali, right?
yeah. So
Where's the
we're
treatment facility located?
We're in Thousand Oaks, California, which is like going into Ventura County. It's in the mountains. It sets out away from. It's like the suburbs in the mountains north of Malibu. Um, yeah, we're not. It's called Oak Forest Recovery. If anybody wants to look into it, but
Okay.
yeah, when a lot of people think of California or like Malibu area, they're thinking like luxury and stuff like that. We're not luxury. We put everything into clinical and structure, and as many quality staff members as possible. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Cause yeah, you're right. Whenever you say Malibu, you think all the, commercials that look like a 5-star resort that you see on TV.
I mean, the houses are nice, but we're not like yeah,
Right.
yeah. They're not like that.
Right. Right.
Well,
And you've got a podcast too, you co-host with Rachel. And what's the other dude's name? I should have looked it up before we got on here.
yeah. His name's RJ Elazaris.
RJ. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, and it's called Against All Odds. You can find that on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram. That's kind of our main channels.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Dude, anything else you want to leave us with before we bounce up out of here?
Mm. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I guess
Okay. And that's okay.
if you're watching this and you're struggling, you know, like it doesn't matter who you reach out to, whether it's
Yeah,
AA,
for sure.
church, you know, just make sure that somebody knows that you're struggling. Because if you don't talk about it, you know, nobody will know that you need the help that you need.
Right.
You
Right.
know, and yeah, I hope you reach out. I hope you take the first step into recovery. And if you're the family member of somebody struggling, also reach out. There's programs for you as well, Al-Anon,
Yep. Yep.
you know, and yeah, find a way to set some healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For sure. That's key. A lot of people don't realize that, or it's talked about, but a lot of people don't realize it because it's always this constant, especially if you're the family member, is it's this constant tightrope of, you know, not wanting to enable, but also they're your kid or your niece or your nephew or whatever. So you want to help and you feel like, yeah, I get it 100%. Set those healthy boundaries, but also show them you love them and you're there for them.
for sure.
For sure. Cool, man. Hunter, man, I appreciate you hanging out with me, dude. This has been an awesome conversation. I don't even have my calendar pulled up, so I don't even remember who's next week. I think Cindy Amador. I don't even know if I'm saying her last name right. I think that's who that is. Yeah, right, exactly. Go to Gangland Express and buy a shark coochie board and help fund, help support some addicts and formerly homeless vets and a really badass Afghan girl that works there. Yeah, Hunter, thanks for doing this, dude. Like I really enjoyed it. This was a blast. So thank you so much.
No worries, man. No worries. Thanks for having me.
Yep. You bet. We'll see y'all next week, guys.